King David is heading back to Jerusalem as king of all Israel after his son's Absalom's attempted coup or takeover failed, and Absalom was actually killed in that. But will the various tribes that were once split on his reign be able to get along? We'll investigate that today. Hi, I'm Ken Godevanis, and this is Digging for Scriptural Gems. Thank you for joining us. So many of you watched the last video. That was very encouraging, and thank you to all of those that have subscribed to our YouTube channel so you get notified of when we put these videos up. Today we're studying 2 Samuel chapter 19, verses 40 to 43, and the topic is family feud. David reaches Gilgal. Chinham, the son of Barzillai, is accompanying him along with all the people of Judah, the prior southern kingdom, and half the people of Israel, the prior northern kingdom. By the way, here's a little tip as to how to remember where Judah, what part of Israel rather Judah was from and what part the rest of the tribes were from. I do this. Israel comes before Judah in the alphabet, and north comes before south. So I match the two pairs, Israel and north, and Judah and south. That helps me to remember. Hopefully it'll help you as well. It seems the men of Israel thought that this was a good time to ask David why all their brothers, the men of Judah, had stolen David and taken him over the Jordan River rather than let everyone do it together. At least that's my guess as to what this is all about and what this refers to. They're basically saying, why did they play a bigger role than we did? Of course, the men of Judah heard them complaining, and they replied, because the king is a close relative of ours. But why are you so angry about it? What's the big deal? Have we been a financial burden to the king? Did we get anything out of this for ourselves? And the men of Israel said, whoa, we have 10 parts to your one. There are 10 tribes in the king's realm. Thus, we have more claim on David than you do. So why did you treat us with dislike or hatred? Weren't we the first ones to say, let's bring David back? And now you do this to us? And the chapter ends with this sentence as they argued back and forth, and I'm giving it to you from the New International Version. It says, quote, but the men of Judah pressed their claims even more forcefully than the men of Israel. We don't know where that ended at that very day or point in time. But let's see what this all meant and what's ahead. Commentator Chuck Smith gives us a great summary of what this passage is all about, what gave rise to it, and its implications long after David would be dead many years later and to the present time. He points out that the division between the northern tribes of Israel and the southern tribe of Judah was manifested in the beginning of David's reign. You'll remember David reigned for 7 years over Judah before he reigned over all of Israel. Now that there has been this division in the kingdom, we can see it rearing its ugly head once more. This old rivalry rises up again. Later on, under David's grandson Rehoboam, there came the complete break, and Jeroboam became king of Israel in the north, and Rehoboam became the king of Judah in the south. And from that time on, there were actually two nations. They never were united again, except in a few battles. The kings would get together in battles, but quite often, and more often than not, they were fighting against each other rather than fighting beside each other against enemies. It certainly became a divided kingdom. In the prophecy of Ezekiel, where God promises to restore the nation, God promises they would be one nation, not two, when they're restored. And of course, since 1948 and the restoration of the nation Israel in our modern times, you don't have the northern tribes versus the southern tribes. But there is a definite unity of all of the nation of Israel. The scriptures have been totally fulfilled as they are unified as a nation, one ruler over them, and a unified nation, just as was predicted by Ezekiel many years ago. Now, David Guzik puts it this way, quote, "This argument was ultimately a about who was more loyal to King David and who had the greater right to honor him. End of quote. That may well have been the underlying issue. But in reality, it seems to me that tribes of Israel were simply angry that the tribe of Judah was more opportunistic than they were, and having reached David first, talked him into proceeding without waiting for all the others. Obviously, some of the others had caught up. Robert Jameson tries to identify the actual spark or cause of the current argument when he writes, quote, "Whether from impatience to move on or from some other cause, David did not wait till all the tribes had arrived to escort him on his return to the capital. The procession began as soon as Amasa had brought the Judahite escort, and the preference given to this tribe produced a bitter jealousy which was nearly kindling a civil war fiercer than that which had just ended. A war of words ensued between the tribes, Israel resting their argument on their superior numbers. They had 10 parts in the king, whereas Judah had no more than 1. Judah grounded their right to take the lead on the ground of their nearer relationship or kinship to the king. This was a claim dangerous to the house of David, and it shows the seeds were already sown for that tribal dissension which, before long, led to the dismemberment of the kingdom." End of quote. And now you know the rest of the story. So what can we learn from today's passage? Well, let me give you the first thing that comes to mind. We notice that David could have said, "No, we're going to wait." He didn't. Was he impatient? Was he tired? We don't know. But we need to be careful that sometimes we, as leaders, when we have the right to say, "Whoa, let's wait," we don't. Or vice versa, I suppose. So being a leader is crucial, and making the right decision is crucial. Did he really favor Judah? As leader, you can't do that. We see that all over the world today, as leaders favor one group of people within their own kingdoms or the countries that they rule over others. Secondly, this whole thing reminds me of the Family Feud TV show. Families fighting with each other. Friends, life is too short. Okay, so you weren't able to host the special guest from out of town because your sister's family got to them first, or because their house is closer or bigger or whatever. Rejoice for their success and help them out. I'm sure you could come up with many other examples of things families fight over. For example, your brother's family got the better weather again this year during the time they had your parents' cottage. Be happy for them. Life is too short. And if we let things like this divide us, the implications for you and your children, as well as your nieces and nephews and grandkids, can be long and horrendous. Excuse me. In Israel's case, they ultimately divided the nation for a long time. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I hope we all remember that when we quibble over things and we let those things get out of control. And the next thing you know, Fred's not talking to John and Mary's not talking to Susan. The kids haven't seen each other for years. And the family has been torn apart. There's enough outside of our own doing to keep us apart. Let's not add fuel to that fire. Next time, we'll see how one rebel named Sheba causes great trouble for David. Join us for that. In the meantime, I encourage you to keep on studying the Word of God on your own. If you want to understand the New Testament better, you've got to study the Old Testament. It spells it all out for you. Share these videos with others so they too can get into the Word. Write to us, tell us what you think, ask us any questions you'd like, encourage us, and above all, we'd appreciate it if you'd like this video right now that you're watching. And if you haven't done so already, as I mentioned earlier, please subscribe to our YouTube channel called Digging for Scriptural Gems.